If there is a train moving very quickly and its brakes have failed, and this train is moving on a track with 5 workers working, and you can change the path of the train and let it go to the second track, which only has 1 worker. Unfortunately, it is not in your power to alert any of them. What to do? Would you choose which one would die and 5 would live, or vice versa? And you will choose on the basis of your nature, your feelings, or your sense of justice. Frankly, this is not a normal question. This is a hypothetical dilemma, I've called it. It explains the way we think and make choices. But in our lives in general, if you are exposed to a similar or a slightly lighter situation, you will choose how to resort to the lottery, and I just want to do it, or any other motives and biases, and how will your choices affect your life? Well, do you? You are confident in your choices and know what factors affect them. So, the more choices you have, the more correct decisions or choices will be made in today's episode based on in the book The Art of Selection by the writer Sheena Inger. We will answer all these questions with scientific and psychological experiments, and we will talk about everything related to the choices and decisions that we make in our lives. What does the art of selection mean? Let us first go through the life of the writer Sheena Inger, check on her choices, and understand why she is talking to us about the art of selection. Given her name, she is Indian, and she and her family believe in the Sikh belief, and this is considered the beginning of her story, because the Sikh belief leaves a small space for the individual in his choices, so it limits him to what to eat, how to wear, to study, and to work, until someone marries someone without what he chooses, what are the characteristics of his partner, and other needs as well, and the small space for choices that he leaves. The writer's belief that I did not enjoy her is strong because when she was young, she was afflicted with a rare retinal disease and became blind, so her family continued to take all the decisions on her behalf from the standpoint of, "Girl, we see your interests literally, but don't judge us now and let us see the second stage of her life, which is when she traveled with her family to America and there. She lived, grew up, learned, and mixed with the American people, whose mentality and everything with them is a cream of the past. Currently, we do not know whether she is committed to the principles of Sikhism or to an American mentality. In fact, she benefited greatly from this mix and was able to understand through it how cultures, religions, and societies influence our choices. She obtained a doctorate in psychology. Also, the sociologist from Stanford University, regarding the point that she is blind, so help her see things are more insightful and as they are, without being affected by their shape, color, and method of presentation, to the point that she became an influential figure and gave lectures, so I think that we still understand the writer's choices, so let us start talking about choices and see whether this choice is an innate desire in us or whether we are guided by everything, even if we come to see what science says. Yes, we did an MRI on the brain. We found 2 parts that help us in the selection process. The part is the cortical lines through the brain. These lines are responsible for collecting information through the senses such as touch, smell, hearing, and sight. Evaluating it is like crushing sugar and saying it tastes sweet, and this helps guide decisions. As for the second part, it is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for making spontaneous decisions. Okay. This is a little bit of scientific talk. Maybe we do not adequately imagine what happens. How do we see what psychology experiments say? What is the first experiment you did? Infants less than 4 months old. At the beginning of the experiment, the researchers tied the children's hands to light strings. Every time they pulled them, they heard a certain type of music. Then the researchers cut this string and continued to let the children listen to the same amount of music at random intervals. They measured the level of satisfaction and happiness of the children in both cases. Can you imagine what the result was? In the second case, when the researchers cut the string, the children were upset and did not want to hear the music. They wanted to identify it. They choose it and it stays according to their mood. We have a second experiment that took place in the year 1096, this time in a nursing home called This Home. It consists of 2 floors. In the first floor, they gave each elderly person a specific plant, but the nurses took care of it and set fixed times for the elderly to watch movies and series on Friday and Saturday, and here is what is harmful to their understanding. He is responsible for taking care of them on the second floor. The situation was a little different. The elderly there are the ones who choose the type of plant they want, the ones who take care of it, and the ones who set the times they want to watch movies on Friday, Saturday, and there. I explained to them that this is their life and they are responsible for it, and after 3 weeks, the scientists, the one in the experiment, they noticed that the elderly in the second floor were happier and their level of health improved by 90%. As for the elderly in the first floor, their health level deteriorated by 70%. After 6 months of experimentation, the scientists found that the elderly in the first floor were less aged than those in the second floor, and in all. From previous experiences and research, we can say that choice is an innate desire for us, and the more a person feels that he has more control over his life according to his decisions, the more his psychological state remains. Well, do you see whether religion and society affect our choices? We see the experiences, we judge, and we begin with the influence of religion, and let us put the supplication as an assumption that the teachings of religions and the commands and prohibitions by restricting freedom a person, and that a religious person is less happy than others, because religion controls his decisions. Let us see the truth of this statement from the experiment that the author herself conducted on 6 dead people who belonged to 9 beliefs, atheists, and non-religious, for 2 years. In the experiment, she had them fill out 3 different questionnaires, or the questionnaire was asking them about the extent to which their commitment to religion in all matters of their lives. The second questionnaire is their level of optimism if they were exposed to difficult situations, such as if they lost their job, for example. As for the last questionnaire, it asks them about whether they have experienced bouts of depression, weight loss, a nervous breakdown, and the like, and here, my friend, is the result of the experiment for those with basic religions. They were more flexible and optimistic than others, and more able to face difficulties. The writer's interpretation is that the idea of restrictions in religions reduces choices, but they create a greater feeling of control over our lives, and that the world is not free, and there must be some limits. Well, society is such that it affects us and our choices. In fact, societies are very influenced and dictate to you a certain way of thinking so that you do not feel it. We will divide societies into 2 types, individual society and collective society. We will know what they are and the difference between them from the following experiment. This experiment was done in an elementary school between children of Asian origin and Americans of English origin. The children were divided into 3 groups and they would enter a room. There is a table with 6 pieces of paper on it that determine the type of exam and 6 colors to answer with, and they will still have their own school. I asked the children of the first group to choose the paper and pen they want, while the second group assigns them the exam and the pain they will experience, and the third group gives them the freedom of choice like the first group, but they tell them that they will die. She prefers a certain type of exam paper and pens. In the end, all the children took the same exam and questions, and the results were as follows. For the American children of English origin, the level of their answers in the exam in the first group was the best. As for the children, the Asians were the best in the third group, but the lowest level for all of them was in the second group. Let us focus a little on the third group, and we will find that the American children felt embarrassed and upset when they learned that their mothers wanted them to choose a specific thing, unlike the Asians who saw the choice as the need that their mothers had specified as a means of expression. Their love is the interpretation of the theory of the individualistic society represented by Western peoples, which means that the individual relies on independence when he takes any decision, unlike the collectivist society, which we as Eastern Arab peoples include. When the individual makes a decision, he takes into account society and thinks about his family and circle, even if it is not the best thing, so that it will be better for his family. As when you meet someone he entered a college that he did not like because of his family, or he bought clothes that would benefit him and his sisters. And now, my friend, after we have concluded the influence of religion and society on our choices, do you think about whether there are other factors that affect your choices, your way of thinking, and your approach to certain decisions without taking it into consideration? Oh, and before I tell you what they are, let me explain to you the thinking systems. They are two systems, a fast automatic system that makes decisions based on feelings and emotions, and a rational, contemplative system that takes matters after time and thought. When someone wants to influence your decision, it depends on the way you think. The automatic system has 4 ways to beware of them. The first way is temptation, and the need comes to you in a way. It is difficult to resist, like the experience when they put something sweet in front of the children and give them the choice of either ringing the bell and eating it now, or waiting a pill of time and taking other pieces. Most children cannot wait more than 3 minutes, but those who know how to be patient distract themselves from the temptation of the sweet thing. The second method is the method of presenting and formulating information in a way that makes you feel that this issue is in your interest and that this is an opportunity that you should not miss. As for the third method of influencing decisions, it is to place ideas that you may not agree with among ideas that you are convinced of, so you agree to all of the talk. And the last method is to imitate and be influenced by the opinion of a famous person or people you like, and in the midst of all these influences on our decisions and our choices. Do you think, my friend, that in our contemporary world we have a lot of choices, especially after modern technology or inventions and new needs that appear every now and then? In fact, these many choices are considered a deception because they are originally considered a single thing, but their form changes with simple differences, such as drinks, for example. There are companies that offer the same taste, but by changing the packaging, they reduce the amount of sugar, and so on. Well, let us ask ourselves if we are given many choices. Does everything that increases the number of choices increase the probability that we will reach the correct choice or the need that we want, and that which we feel is detailed for us? We will know the answer by trying the jam in a store. Also, the writer Sheena Andrews suggested to the shop owner that she should set up a small kiosk near the entrance. At one time, she would offer many flavors of jam, about 24 to 28 flavors, and at one time she would offer only 6 flavors. You will see the behavior of consumers in both cases. In the first episode, the number of people who stopped at the kiosk to try the flavors was greater than the second case by 60%, but the purchase rate in the second case was higher. The explanation here is that increasing the number of choices makes the topic more attractive. However, studies have shown that people usually make mistakes when they come to distinguish between more than 5 to 9 things, and they may lose the ability to differentiate at all. If the number exceeds 9, that's fine, as the many choices are distracting and increase the possibility that we will not reach a decision, but the question now is whether the abundance of choices makes us feel happier and that we own the world and everything in it, even if this is at the expense of the final decision. In fact, this is not a condition. On the contrary, it can cause feelings such as regret and heartbreak. You may feel yourself that you missed a choice that was better than the one you had, and this feeling may increase with you, to the point that he wastes your joy with the need you have, and it is clear that he did. Our choices affect the course of our lives and our psychology, and let us confirm with another experience. And this time, I want you, my friend, to imagine that you have become a father, and you, my watching friend, have become the mother of your first child, and we will name her Julie. Oh, there is no one who calls her Julie just now. What does the experiment mean? The important thing is that Julie was born prematurely and weighing less than normal. She has a cerebral hemorrhage and is in intensive care and connected to a respirator. Unfortunately, after 3 weeks of treatment, there has been no improvement in her condition. You have 3 scenarios. The first scenario is that the doctors see that the best solution for Julie is that they remove the respirator from her and convey to you as a father or mother the news of her death. But the second scenario, is that the doctors will talk to you about Julie's condition and they will give you a choice between removing the respirator and she will die then, or they will leave her on it, and at that time she may live for another day and die 2 days later, and if she lives, she will continue her life while she is completely unable to walk and interact with people. They will tell you that as doctors they see that the correct decision is to remove the respirator. As for the third scenario, it is the same as the second scenario, with the difference that the doctors will not give you any advice, they will leave the entire choice to you. Remove the device. It is a very difficult situation, so let us see the results of this experiment for people who were put in the same situation. In a study at Columbia University, the people who were exposed to the first scenario had a better psychological state than what was in the rest of the scenarios, and the people who were in the second scenario and listened to the doctor's advice had their level of tolerance. The situation was good, and the level of pressure on them was not great. As for the people in the third scenario, their condition was worse, and most of them suffered from depression, and those of them who agreed to remove the device felt guilt and regret. In the end, my friend, our lives are actually full of choices and decisions, some of them fateful and some of them ordinary. Today we learned the nature of the choices and their impact on us psychologically and practically, and how they are affected by various factors. After you understand what the choices are, you will know how to find the best decision suitable for you. Tell us in a comment what you would feel in every scenario. From Julie's experience, what would you choose in the train dilemma? And that's it.